Okay, hello everyone. I think I am live right now. Of course, this is the first time. This is the first time that I've ever done a live stream on my phone on YouTube before. Normally, I do it on my computer, but I finally reached over 1,000 subscribers, so YouTube now allows me the opportunity to do live streams on my phone. And so if I'm confused about like pushing such buttons to push or pushing certain buttons, that's because it looks all looks different than when I do. I forget any water in here. I probably should have done that. It looks different on my computer, so I may become a little confused while doing this because the layout is different from what I'm used to. Um, and so, but apparently I am live right now. If you're here, just let me know so I can know that someone is live. Although I don't see a chat feature anywhere. Again, this is new. This going live on going live on my phone is new to me. I'm not used to it, and so and so it's not something that I'm used to. So I don't know exactly how it works. I'm doing this live stream though, oddly, to promote and celebrate the completion of the Ecstasy and the Ignominy, my new book, and it was it proved to be a very grueling task. Took me 2.5 years actually to complete it, and so it was a task that took a lot of energy, a lot of effort. I had to put basically all of my literary powers in place, to my literary powers to complete the book, and I wonder where the chat feature is on here. I don't see one. Um, Again, this is the first time that I've gone live on the on my on mobile on my phone. I've done live before on TikTok, but I've never done it on my phone on here before, so I'm not used to how things work. So again, if you're here, please say something so I can know that you are, and so I can know that you are here. Um, so just say something. But again, this live stream is to celebrate the completion of my book, The Ecstasy and the Ignominy, and and so that's what the live stream is for. Um, I feel down. I'm sorry that you feel down. That's not really. I mean, I'm sorry that you feel down, but anyway, this is the purpose of this live stream though is to celebrate my book of the Egg and the Ignominy that I completed. Took me 2.5 years to complete it. I had to utilize all of my literary power to complete it. It took a great amount of effort and skill. And so if you have any questions about the book or about reading or about my philosophy of life in general, feel free to ask. And and so, but yeah, that is the purpose of this live stream. Um, and again, I haven't done a live stream in a while. It actually, and then the book is here is the paperback version of the book, The Ecstasy and the Ignominy, and then and and uh, and then here is the mashed, the version I have here, and then here's the hardback version of the Ecstasy and the Ignominy. This edition is $30, which some people might consider that to be rather pricey uh, for a book. But again, you have to remember that the print cost is more expensive. For it's going to be more than the cost of the paperback, and so that's the reason. And but I will say after 2.5 years, spending 2.5 years on it, I do think in 20 and 30 books are not really too much to ask. Um, hey, and so the that is so the book. So I don't think $20 or $30 is too much to ask, given the fact that I spent 2.5 on it. And hardback I think is especially nice addition, but the paperback I think looks pretty good as well. Pretty good as well, and I think it represents somewhat Penguin classics, the Penguin Classics editions of books. Um, like for example, I can get a book. I don't have one on me, but um, I have see you see this book. What this book is you can tell I kind of modeled the ecstasy and the Nimini off of this book. So I wanted it to look somewhat like a classic novel, a classic book, and that is what I was aiming for. And so I think that was the purpose of behind the design. And of course, as I will say, I think that live streams all make me somewhat nervous because whenever I do a live stream, of course, everything's live. I don't re-tape tape anything, obviously, or re-record anything. Obviously, when I do videos, I can re-record everything if I make a mistake, if I stutter, if I give out the wrong information. But obviously, when you're doing something live, um, everything is everything is live, so you can't revise yourself or edit. Because as a writer, obviously, I like to revise myself and edit the things that I say, and but of course that really isn't possible during live. Now, of course, you have here. Hey, I'm sorry, I don't have any money. Well, it's okay. I'm just talking. You don't have to buy the book, and of course, some people. I'm not accusing you of this, but uh, some people, of course, say they don't have any money to buy books and things. When in reality, it's just that they don't have their priorities straight. There are some people who will spend, $100 at a restaurant on food, but but they won't spend, sometimes even, $5, $10 on a book. So some people don't have their priority. But anyway, so yes, live stream is to basically celebrate the completion of my book, The Ecstasy, and I hold it upside down, The Ecstasy and the Anemone, and again, it took me 2.5 years to complete, and it was I had to use all of my literary abilities to complete it by using all of my knowledge of Shakespeare, Melville, Hawthorne, Dickens, and all of my influence were poured into this book to create what I think is a pretty solid and visceral novel. It's also my longest to date. It's far longer than any of my other books, and which is one of the reasons why I've been taking somewhat of a break from writing to recover from congratulations on your books. You're from Kentucky, if I remember correctly. Yes, I am from Kentucky. I am from, well, I did live in Litchfield, Kentucky. Actually, from uh, Grayson County, Kentucky. I did live in Litchfield. I grew up in Litchfield, which Grayson County is about 40 minutes from Fort Knox, which some of you may know, where at least it was in the past, where the nation's gold is often stored. It was featured, of course, in the film Goldfinger. I was born actually in Elizabeth, where some of you might know the Cameron Crowe film Elizabethtown, which even though they only filmed one scene there with Earl Bloom, and yes, I'm from Grayson County, Kentucky, which I like Kentucky. Kentucky's, I mean, the landscape in Kentucky is, I love the landscape in Kentucky. Kentucky is a very beautiful place in that regard. But the people I don't like so much. Of course, I don't think I would like the people anywhere where I lived up. Um, Sometimes I lived closer to major cities, so I could more easily attend uh, events, festivals, go to the movies, that sort of thing, which you have to drive a longer way because I live in a rural area. At the same time, though, if I did live closer, I wouldn't have the um, the the majestic land around me. And of course, I actually own because I live on a 100-acre not farm, 100 acres of land, and a couple of those acres are actually, they're not yet going to be my property, so I can do whatever I want with it. I can go and ride in the woods and have a peaceful time and essentially do whatever I want. And that's I often love, especially in the autumn. And um, I concur on that. Okay, yeah, especially autumn. I love going riding in the woods in autumn, and winter as well. The summers here, though, I don't like. They can be far too humid, and the spring ticks often come out. Um, I concur on the people who are originally from Pikeville myself and living in Lexington at the moment. Yeah, I've only been to I went to Lexington when I was a child, when I was diagnosed with with OCD disorder when I was a child. So I went to this doctor in Lexington, and I don't think I've actually been to Lexington since then. Um, I go quite a lot to Bowling Green, Elizabethtown, and Owensboro. I've been particularly going to Owensboro a lot lately because there's a theater there that I like going to. Very rarely am I in Lexington. I don't think I've been to Lexington since I was about 9 or 10. Um, and of course, I go to Louisville occasionally as well, although not too often. The last time I was in Louisville was in June to go to Wonderfest, this fantasy sci-fi convention that's every year. I usually go to Wonderfest every year. Yeah, Henry David Thoreau is someone that I admire. No, I haven't read a lot of it yet, although I will be visiting Henry David Thoreau's grave in which is in Massachusetts, I believe, along with the graves of Nathaniel Hawthorne and several other famous authors. When I hopefully will go on this trip to New England next year, and so that will be exciting. There's this whole yard in in Massachusetts, near Concord, Massachusetts, where a lot of famous literary figures are buried, and I will be there. Hopefully, it's not a done deal, but hopefully next autumn, um, around this time next autumn, about 10 days, about probably the first week of October, um, about 10 days next year. Um, and so that will be very exciting because I love to travel to places of literary significance. Um, but I don't get that chance too often. Um, yeah, the people. Yeah, well, I'm going to be going to Maine as well. I'm going to be going to what they call Kennebunk or something. It's this town I think where of colonialism. There's this hotel there that faces the ocean, and we might be going to Bangor where Stephen King lives. I don't know if they're now. I have been to New England before, but I was 11. Therefore, I didn't really appreciate a lot of the stuff that we saw because I wasn't really into literature or history or anything like that at the time. And I actually went to Bangor and was like stood right outside Stephen King's house. Could saw his gate and everything. Um, but again, I was 11 and didn't appreciate it at the time. Um, so this time I definitely will appreciate it. Um, and so, but that's going to be a dream vacation for me. The only problem is you're constantly driving on from place to place, um, night to night, and it can be grueling and exhausting when you're traveling around, not never staying in one place for very long. I've always wanted to go to England actually and go to the Charles Dickens Museum and go to see like a play at the Globe. Even though I know it was rebuilt, but it's not the original Globe. And to take a Jack the Ripper tour, but that's something I don't know if I'll ever get to do because parents don't like to fly. Like I'll have to do that on my own because they refuse to fly anywhere. That they. So if I want to do that, to afford it and do it myself someday, which I don't know how that's possible, but I've always wanted to go to England. Um, and also Los Angeles as well. No, I'm not interested in modern Los Angeles at all. Um, but I just want to see a lot of the famous movie locations because I do have an interest in classic Hollywood. Now I have been to New York City. I went there in 2012 and saw a lot of things. Although again, what I saw I didn't appreciate as much because I didn't have as much of an interest in it at the time. Probably the highlight of that trip was seeing the Phantom on Broadway, and that was because it's the Phantom of the Opera is a musical that I love, and it's no longer on Broadway, so which is unfortunate, and because then now I can never see it again, and the problem with the people. The problem that you mentioned, the don't not liking the people here in Kentucky. Well, the problem I have with a lot of people in Kentucky is that they come off somewhat a lot of them. There's a redneck culture here that I don't really like. An anti-intellectual culture. That's not everybody, of course. I'm not. It's a stereotype that everyone in Kentucky is a hillbilly. But of course, the hillbillies are actually in eastern Kentucky. It has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with any people in central Kentucky, really. But again, there's just the redneck culture here I don't really like, even though, again, not everyone in Kentucky is like that. I'm not like that. And so, yeah, those trips are trips I'm hoping to take next year. So, does anybody have any questions for me or anything like that about the book, writing, whatever it might be? Should have brought some water with me. Normally, I need when I talk for a long time, I need water, and that's something you don't really think about though. But there's a reason why people, when they're on stage and when they're on stage, they always give them glasses of water because when they have to speak a lot, and so if nobody is going to speak, nobody's going to ask me anything, then I might as well. I was planning on. Are your books on Amazon? Yes, they're on Amazon. They are in. They are linked in my in all of my in all of my videos that aren't shorts. In the videos that aren't shorts, they are linked. Um, and you just click on the link and it will take you to all of the books. Well, it's not going to be linked in this live stream, however. It's not going to be linked in this live stream, I don't think. I didn't link anything in this live stream. And it's not going to be linked in the video where I posted announcing it. I didn't put a link trying to get it out, but any of the other videos below that, It should be linked. It's Amazon Stories. You go there, and it takes you to where all my books are. And except for my book, The Reigns of Godwin Valley, it's not linked with all the others because it's under the name Joseph Loxton instead of Joseph Vance Loxton. And so, yeah, all of my videos that aren't shorts, except for this and also the video where I announced the live stream, it's not going to be there either. But in most of my other videos, that you will find it, and that link. And or if you just type into Amazon.com Joseph Vance Loxton, I should come up, or even on Google, I come up with most of my books. Um, so, although I have been somewhat disappointed in the sales of the Ecstasy and the Ignominy so far. I mean, I've published it around a month ago, and I've only sold one copy so far. Um, by which was I sold which Miles Knight, who is probably I guess my greatest fan. He owns practically everything. Yeah, he owns practically everything they have ever written. Um, yeah, that's the book. Okay, oh, I remember now. You had the cover that was inspired by the great cover. Yeah, well, yeah, that was my last book, Silent Reckoning, which was took place in the 1920s. This book, this book here is The Ecstasy and the Ignominy is a book that takes place in the 19th century, and yeah, in this town that's near the mountain region, which it could really be anywhere in the United States, not actually set in a specific place. It has almost kind of a somewhat of a European atmosphere, even though the book is set somewhere vaguely in the United States. Um, so, um, so the setting here is a little more vague, but I also think this is a gorgeous cover as well. Um, the the stone here, which this was actually not in the book, but it kind of almost looks like an obelisk. You know, it creates an ominous atmosphere, and of course, right here you can see the noose, where in the book people are being executed. And so anyway, I was a little disappointed. And of course, again, I'm grateful that you liked the cover though to Silent Reckoning, but I am a little disappointed though in how in my level of book sales so far because I've only sold one copy, which was and I published the book a month ago, which not Miles Knight bought, which Miles is probably my greatest fan, at least in terms of how many things that he's actually bought. He's the only person that's actually probably bought all of my books. I was hoping he might be here tonight. He tends to be interacts a lot when he's here, but apparently I don't think he is. But anyway, so does anyone else? Does anyone have any questions for me about the book? If not, I'm going to read the entirety of one of the chapters from the book. Haven't quite decided yet, but I'm going to read through at least one chapters, perhaps chapter 3. No, that's chapter 7. If I can find it. Let's see, what chapter do I want to read from? I guess I'll read from chapter 3 as the easiest one to navigate. Okay, so does anyone have any questions for me before I get started about the book or anything like that? Again, the book was somewhat inspired by the Great Gatsby. I mean, not the Great Gatsby. The Tale of Two Cities and Karenina. Um, it's somewhat, and also it has certain Shakespeare overtones. Of course, it also has elements in terms when I talk about the sea, Moby Dick as well. And so, does anyone have any further questions for me before we get started. I'll give you about 30 seconds. I'll start reading. Again, it's when I do live streams, there can be a lot of awkward pauses because I can't read tape or redo these, so I have to. Not getting any interaction. Sometimes I just have to sit in silence and wait. Okay, almost. All right, I'm going to start reading, and I'm not going to interact with anything that's said until after I get through with the reading. So here I go. Chapter 3, Harrisville, Edward's Narrative. Before my gaze even descended upon Harrisville, my nostrils fervently shuddered. It was like inhaling the breath of hell, and with every exhalation a part of my soul perished. High in the mountain peaks, flurries of ash tainted the purities in the sky, like drops of blood defying the majesties of water. Industrial mists intermingled with the pearly clouds, their hazel hues expelling all lustrous enrichments. One possessing a pellucid sanguinity, the refined lambencies in the horizon were supplanted by the imperious brooms of industrialization. Reminiscent of tumultuous cyclones, it almost seemed as if the noxious vapors ascended out of the rancorous apertures of the earth. I watched the respirations of the world gyrate into a merciless perdition, one which defaced the luminaries of creation. As the mist of dawn thickened, I at last vacated the sea of emerald timber, once again returning to the sycophantic drudgeries of communal life. The silk hazes whispered to the face of day, envious of the light of restitution. In some ways they resembled clouds soaring over glacial glistenings. They stifled the resurrection of diurnal artistries, just as dreams repress the emancipation of consciousness. In the end, nature is simply an instrument for the symphonies of men. Wandering through the sorrows of the fog, a succession of dilapidated edifices greeted my lethargic senses. From a distance, they were industrial phantoms, asymmetrical, inelegant, and unsupple. The rain of time had cleansed the portentous lustres from the rooftops, much like a gray dawn exercising sheens from a translucent lake. The rectangular configurations of glass, at one time polished and pristine, had fallen prey to the gales of frigid alchemy. Even as the sun stroked the cracks that were conduits for nature's vicissitudes, the strands of refined only lightly drizzled, for they insolently clung to the promises of the spring moon. They knew that the heat was a fleeting treasure, whereas frigidity was an indelible acquisition. The throng of indistinguishable countenances didn't entice my disaffected senses. Every frivolous gaze, whether demonstrative or adversarial, was no more tangible to me than a dream that fades into the light of day. I was like a lonely star surrounded by the blackness of space, by the vacuousness of celestial sleep. I was a candle illuminating portraitures that had once been silent, that had once been sentient, exemplifying the altruisms of the world, but had since relinquished the lifebloods of. To them the melodies of rain were like elusive whispers in the wind, and the embrace of the sun was like an amorous love letter that never made it home. People are born as ghosts, but die as memories. We haunt the radiances of eventually even our thoughts become spectral. Our odysseys become blind to heaven's graces, to the splendid tortures of eternity. And when the flames are extinguished, only the chimes of memories remain. The circumambient throngs of doleful gates sing their limbers with the translucent chimes, no longer autonomous tangentials, but phonic notes in a cerebral ballad of phantasmagoric ailment. There was no time within their hearts, for the soul of clemency had sailed from shores long ago. Upon turning the next corner, my tawny orbs winced as artificial fluorescences that placated the face of night descended into openness, like rivers weary of philanthropic tangerines. But disquieted windows were enshrined with polished mists, each nebulous liaison another jewel from the depths of misanthropic modernity. It was like watching an array of sumptuous clouds absorb the esteemed violets of the earth. into a fountain that metaphorphosed all light into dissonant breaths. I was in a world without pensive mornings, without the gift of enlightened fevers. It was a world where death was reminiscent of a cool spring, and where life was an aimless wanderer. Meandering further into the streets that were blind to all sultry fervors, I noticed that the flurries of melded with the curtains of snow, as though drawn to the innocuous viscosities that besought the laurels of April passions. The frost jibed through the rapacious streams of ash, forever ensconced within the ammoniac dynasties of urbanization. Every flake was evocative of wounds, the centers of which seduced my thoughts. In that moment I was neither body nor spirit, but a capricious lucidity soaring through time. Just as my senses started to stabilize, I saw it, the edifice that turned all autumnal dreams into nightmarish winters. The thunderous funnels, serpentine and limbersome, disseminated sulphurous toxicities into the unblemished heavens. Even the azures of auroral acrimonies, once considered to be the saving graces of diurnal machinations, were ensnared by the miasmas that vociferously longed for nature's fealty. It almost appeared as though an eternal tempest lingered over Harrisville. It was a place where daylight was a fanciful dream, where winter was an indelible apparition, where even the most modest of aspirations congealed into disillusioned frosts. Barred windows, stolid and imperious, were like streaks of ice concealing the darkness of a vast ocean. Every aperture contained a haunted emptiness, the origins of which remained imprisoned within the tempest of nihilistic modernity. Eroded and pallid, the brick walls shuddered in response to the quavering chimneys, as if desperate to escape the grasp of hell. I remembered when the factory had just opened its doors. The lugged scarlet hues, like youthful rivers, washed over the walls with an enriching vivacity. Spring was its most beloved companion, and even the rain, normally an elemental adversary, became a nourishing endearment. As the sultry dews of spring acquiesced to the timorous etherealities of phantoms, the light within the windows was lost to shadowless remembrances. Like a freshly cultivated grave succumbing to preternatural corrosions, the tawdry pigmentations were bedimmed by the fastidious pallors, forever enslaved to the incantations of cosmic musings. Some people say that death is the preeminent enemy of life, but they often fail to comprehend, mostly through no fault of their own, is that one cannot die if they have never truly lived. There are some things worse than death. Every time a tear passes from our eyes, we die inside. When rubicant leaves descend from trees, our hearts quiver, become acrimonious. In such moments, we start to realize that consciousness itself is a prison. Life, in its purest incarnation, is the jailer of dreams. So that is the end of chapter 3. Now, what is essentially happening in that chapter is that the character of Edward is walking down the street of Harrisville, seeing this town which has been ruined and corrupted somewhat by industrialization, and it's morning and the sun's coming up, and but the fires are still burning more fiercely than ever, and he's just become disillusioned by life because he feels alienated and alone because of industrialization, that he's essentially become just another cog in the machine. So that is what that chapter is essentially about. So does anyone have any questions for me about the passage, or again about my books or writing in general? So does anyone have any questions for me? Any questions at all? Hey, hello, David. I know you comment on my videos fairly regularly. Um, so does anyone have any questions for me? Any questions at all? yeah, that life is a jailer of dreams because he feels. Thank you. I really like that line especially because he feels trapped by life itself because he cannot dream because essentially he has been imprisoned. He's imprisoned in this industrial hell, which is his life. And so, because I've always that now the ecstasy and the ignominy. Some of you might want to know whether or not it is. Now, I'm going to be right back and get a bottle of water because I've been talking so much that my mouth is dry. So stay tuned. I'm going to have to leave the room for a few seconds just so I can get a bottle of water. I know I should have brought one in here with me, but I'm. Um, okay, so yeah. Now, some of you might want to know if the ecstasy and the ignominy is a pro. Yeah, but anyway, is a pro like communist book? Is it pro capitalism? What is it? Well, it doesn't really take either side per se, because on one end, it sh- the book shows how capitalism and industrialization has um, made wage slaves out of the populace and how they feel isolated and alone. And I am actually of the personal belief that people should not have to live on a wage that they get from their work alone. That I view that as a coercion. I do believe that people should be guaranteed the right to live, regardless of whether they can work or not. Which is why I am an advocate for universal basic income. However, at the same time, however, the book is not really communistic because the actually are the communists in this book. They are people who there's this group of communists who, even though that's not that word, who want to rise up and take over this system. Becca's Bookhaven. Hi. But anyway, and take over the system and put the capitalists to death and take away private property. And the book is also, I think, against that as well, because yes, capitalism is an oppressive system in some ways. That doesn't mean the answer is to abolish private property and to kill your oppressors. That's not the answer, because it's too black and white. And so the book is also critical of the that you should look upon the world as either you are the oppressed or you are the oppressor. The world is far more complicated than, and so the book essentially is critical of fanaticism, whether it is capitalism fanaticism, whether it's communist fanaticism, whether it is religious fanaticism. If you look upon the world as, well, I'm good and the other people are the enemy, that is a recipe for disaster. That is what the book essentially is critical of. And and although it is, I think, at the center of it, a very spiritual and religious and teaching, because it's the idea that you can have good intentions if you don't actually have a proper foundation upon which those intentions can rest. Then you're going to slide into relativism and to chaos. And so that is the essential message of the book. You can have good intentions, but if you don't actually see the inherent dignity within the individual, then you are going to descend into complete relativism and chaos. So that is the essential message of the book. Sorry, I can't join. I can't join too long. It's Wednesday morning here, It's Wednesday morning here. Well, where are you from, David? Uh, it's Wednesday morning, so I'm just curious. I'd like to know. Um, Indonesia. Oh, yes. Um, Morning there. Yeah, we can often forget that there are people from various parts of the world who join in. Um, so no, if you have to go to sleep, go to sleep. Um, I wouldn't. If I were tired, I wouldn't stay up. I'd go to sleep. So I completely understand. And so, does anyone have any questions about anything that I've said thus far about writing or anything else for that matter? Just okay. I see you, David. Does anyone else have any questions for me? Um, because it's difficult, to do live streams when I'm essentially the only one. Not that I'm blaming anybody, but it's just that I'm the only one talking. Normally, I can talk for a long time if I have constant stimulation. Otherwise, end things within an hour if I'm not getting a lot of interaction. One thing I will also mention, though, is that there is a love story at um, at the heart of the ecstasy and the ignominy, a love story between Catherine Harris and Edward Compton, because Catherine Harris is um, is the wife of this wealthy industrialist Frederick Harris, and she feels she's probably in 40s, middle age. Frederick might be in his 60s, maybe early 70s. And she feels alienated and alone, and she finds solace in Frederick's employee, Edward Compton, who is a younger man. And but of course, Catherine, being a very pious and religious woman, doesn't want to get into that passion, and so there's a forbidden love story at the heart of it. When Edward gets embroiled within this communist revolution against the capitalists, um, she has to take some very important decisions about what to do about it. And so that is the heart and essence and soul of the narrative in the book. So again, like I said, my book, The Ecstasy Emily, is available for is headed backwards. Is available for purchase both in back and in paperback as well. And and of course, I've talked a lot about the plot, and the the book has, of course, a very poetic resonance. But I wanted to make it sound like a classic novel. I wanted it to have the poetry and beauty of a classic novel, and which I believe it had. So, does anyone else have any questions for me about the book or anything else? I can go a long time if I can go for 2, 3 hours, and that only usually works if I have some interaction. If I don't have any interaction, then I usually have to close up early. I will admit, though, it has been disappointing, though, that I've only really sold one copy of The Ecstasy and Ignominy so far. Especially when, you put so much work into something 2.5 years, and then, the work is a reward in itself. And but it is disappointing when you put so much work into something and nobody really seems to care. Um, but that's the way life is, I'm afraid. Although it shouldn't be that way. So, does anyone else have any for me? Any questions at all? Of course, these are the notebooks that I wrote the rough draft of the Ecstasy and the Ignominy in. Um, I wrote I started in this book, and I actually wrote about half of this within this notebook, and then I finished it in this notebook. So these represent rough draft versions of the book. Of course, my handwriting is so bad that only I, in many cases, can read it. So, does anyone else have any questions for me? Any at all? If not, then I'm probably going to have to end this live stream early. But I mean, it has been disappointing. Um, I thought I might get some more participation. Of course, this was done at a short notice, and so does anyone else have any questions for me before I go? Okay, no one does. Then I will wait 30 seconds to give you some more time, and then I'll end it. It's your last chance. Well, all right then. If I guess this is the end of the live stream. It was disappointing. I would have hoped more people would have participated, so it has been disappointing in that regard. I'll probably make some kind of reaction video. Um, well, all right then. So I guess I'll see you in another live stream later. Again, I know this was spare a moment, but I had some free time, so I thought I would do one. I should have given people more warning in advance, but I guess I'll see you all later.